Yep. Yep. Yay! Fantastic. I was muted, so audio listeners, you got a bunch of stuff that you're going to hear twice. Enjoy. Thanks for letting me know 1%, because this would have been a very awkward podcast for the Patreon, or for the Twitch side without that audio. Oh, that's fun. Nope. Apparently my microphone again decided to reset itself. You're not crazy. I didn't double check on OBS that everything was reading properly. I just made sure Audacity was reading everything correctly. So I'll try that again. Welcome, everyone. Episode 49. I'm alone. Tim isn't here. Mike can't fill in. And we're moving on. First thing first, we are still doing the giveaway. Reference previous episodes for that. It's hard to believe my lying ears sometimes. Yeah, mine too, dude. All I hear is buzzing, so I'm right there with you. We're still doing the giveaway. I believe this is the last week. Next week, we should be doing the drawing live here. I'm not 100% on that, so I will definitely put that in the show notes in the future for the actual audio release and all that, if that's the case. But regardless, sign up if you want a potential at least 1 month free Humble Bundle for PC. We're talking about Destiny 3. Quote, again, audio listeners, I apologize you're hearing this twice, but hey, that's how this is going to go tonight because I'm alone, so just sit back and enjoy the voice. There was a leak a while ago from someone who claimed to know a lot about Destiny and Destiny 2 and potentially Destiny 3. The only reason we're talking about this is because his leak turned out to be true. Well, at least half of it has turned out to be true. He went on Reddit and basically said there's this new system called Prism that's going to allow you to mix and match abilities that they're working on. So you can be like in Solar, but then throw a lightning grenade or blah, 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 whatever, okay? So he called it Prism, and they actually ended up revealing it for the next expansion, if I'm not mistaken, Final Shape, where it's going to be called Prismatic. So that's a thing. This guy basically called it Prism. He then also went on to explain, saying that Bungie is also working on another project codenamed Payback that he thinks is Destiny 3. And again, audio listeners, I apologize you're hearing this twice. I will be blown away if that's the case. Bungie never wanted to make 2. They made 2 because Activision told them to. There's no reason, no gain, no value to them remaking the game in the same engine a third time. There is no reason to do that. It is far more likely that they will continue to make expansions like every other MMO. Every other MMO that has ever had a sequel, i.e. Guild Wars 2, EverQuest 2, those are not direct linear story sequels from the predecessor. They're completely different titles, standalone with a new everything, right? So like that kind of sequel, Destiny 2, whether you like it or not, is an MMO. That's what the devs say. They will know. They're the ones building the fucking game, so they're going to be the ones that are right, whether we agree or not. It's not really up for debate. But there you go. They're not making 3. I can almost guarantee it. Now, that doesn't mean they're not working on a spin-off title, which seems highly likely to me with the spoiler alert, if you care, return of Cade, Cade 6 coming back. It makes sense to build a spin-off title for the hands-down most beloved character in all of Destiny since its creation, Cade 6. I could easily see them working on a like single-player narrative spin-off story where you play as Cade. Would not surprise me at all. Destiny 3 is not happening. I will literally quit the world of gaming. No, I won't. That's hyperbolic. I don't know. You guys decide what I do. I'll leave it up to you. Leave in the comments or post your thoughts on what you think my punishment should be if I'm wrong, because I'm kind of curious what you guys come up with. And if I'm wrong, I'll pick one of them and do it. Don't know which. But if you have thoughts like, hey, you should do this if you're wrong, I'll listen. I'll hear you out. Put it in the comments and I'll listen. But no, it's far more likely Bungie is working on a Destiny spinoff than they are Destiny 3. That just doesn't make sense with what they've said, with their track record, what they desire. Just my opinion, though. So that's pretty much Destiny. I don't think we're seeing a third. Prismatic? Yeah, Prismatic is going to be pretty cool. Little annoyed that all the super fans of Bungie are now back on Bungie's bandwagon after literally castrating them following the last expansion. But hey, you crazy fans do what you crazy fans do. 1%. You have to buy Destiny 3 and then start at the start menu for an hour, contemplating your life up until that point. Yeah. There's no reason for Destiny 3. There's none. There's no feasible reason for them to build a third game. They never intended to make a second. So, gonna leave that at that. Next on the docket for tonight, Battlefield is supposedly returning to single-player experiences with their next title, which I personally am thrilled about, because one of my favorite shooters... Wow, really? Yeah. One of my favorite shooters of all time was probably Battlefield Bad Company and Bad Company 2. I think I like the first one more because the story in the first one was so spot on. The single player campaign of Battlefield Bad Company 1, the banter they had, fantastic. And FPS games moving away from a narrative story driven game that's tongue in cheek like that is missing, right? Like Call of Duty, you still have, there's the single player campaign to that, right? But you've got just, it's what's the term for it? There was a term recently that somebody made that I heard for the first time. It's like a boomer shooter, but it's like a term where like it's like a boomer shooter. Let's just leave it at that. You just kill shit. It's nonstop action. There's really like the story is just a catalyst for a reason to go from point A to point B to kill C and do D and blow shit up. Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised they haven't made a third Bad Company 2, because that was an amazing section of Battlefield. So hopefully we'll see. I would even take a remake of the first one, to be honest. Like the first one, the story from the first one was so good. But anyways, EA has announced that they're bringing in the devs that did the Dead Space remake to do the narrative campaign for the next Battlefield. So I didn't get a chance to play the remake yet. I really want to. I love the first Dead Space. It was fucking terrifying. And there were multiple times that literally almost made me jump out of my skin and become a necromorph. But I'm really curious to see what they do with the Battlefield brand, because it's Dead Space, and that game was amazing. I've heard that the remake is phenomenal and really good, and they took the original and only made it better. So that's really cool. There's no word on when this game is coming out. They've just said that it's going to be, they're going to bring back a focus on single player as well as, you know, the expansive multiplayer that we all, I guess, know and love Battlefield for. I love their multiplayer. I'm not a big fan of the recent ones. I kind of fell off after 4. I didn't play 5. I played 1 briefly, and the campaign in that one was good, but it was way too short because there's like little individual stories. And then, I don't know if I'm just old, but I tried to play it online, and I could not tell who was a bad guy and who was a good guy in Battlefield 1. I don't know if I'm just old and dumb or what. So, didn't enjoy the online for that one. Didn't play 5 or V, I guess. I don't know. A lot of people say it's one or the other. And I bought 2042 and played it for about 12 minutes before refunding it, because I got annoyed that I loaded the game to load a cutscene, to then load a menu, to load another menu, to load a game, to load another cutscene. And I was like, I'm done. Too much loading just to get into the start of the game. Like, no, just load me a menu, let me click start, and let me play. That was ridiculous. So I really didn't give that game a whole lot of chance. But to be honest, I was never really that interested in it in the first place. So I'm really hoping we go back to a Battlefield Bad Company kind of style. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember the trailers for Bad Company, but they were some of the best, like, I want to say slapstick humor, but it wasn't really slapstick. It was very just nuanced humor where, like, they made a parody of the Gears of War trailer, because the first Gears of War was really popular at the time. They made a parody of that where it's the Mad World by Gary Jules, and look it up. If you don't remember, look it up. Look up Battlefield Bad Company Mad World, and like just the whole game was just humor like that, and it was a very fun game. So I really hope they create a very good single player narrative, because that's honestly what I'll probably buy the next one for, and then multiplayer will just be kind of a side thing for it. So, they also did clarify, I should say this, because it is the next Battlefield is being made by Motive. By Motive, the Motive team. Claus, I think he is the director. Who are you, Claus? What's your title? Directors. All right. Anyways, one of the execs basically said that Motive's Iron Man game won't be derailed by this change by bringing this team over, and that Iron Man's development will continue in parallel at the main studio, and it's apparently making excellent progress, clearing a major internal milestone and laying a robust foundation for the journey ahead. So good news there if you're looking forward to the Iron Man game. That is still very much deep in production, and it's moving along nicely. So good to hear. The last real kind of big topic I have for you guys before we get into some actual quickfire news, not the ice chest cooler news that Tim did last week with Mike. I will never, ever let them do an episode without me again. That was painful. Thanks for stealing my wallet, guys. Really appreciate it. Warhorse, the devs behind Kingdom Come Deliverance, are revealing their new game next week. To be specific, April 18th at exactly 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 8 p.m. Central European Standard Time. Threw me for a second, but I got it. Will be live streamed, whatever the hell they're working on next. Now, a lot of people are expecting it to be a sequel to Kingdom Come Deliverance because it's hailed as a fantastic RPG set in Bohemia in the 15th century, yada, yada, yada. If Tim was here, he would castrate me for saying this, but honestly, I couldn't get into it. I tried multiple times to get into Kingdom Come. I wanted so much to like that game. I think I tried to play it about 7 or 8 times, and every time I played it, I would get just slightly further, and then it would lose me, and I would lose complete interest in it. I think that game had a lot of potential, and I don't think it's a bad game by any means. It's just my personal take. Didn't enjoy it. I tried. I really wanted to, but I did not. So I don't know how that game ends. I don't know if it leaves it open for a sequel. My understanding was that, again, spoiler for a game that, like, almost that's almost 8 years old now. What is that? Yeah, 6 years. 6 years? Yeah, 6 years old. If I'm not mistaken, you go on to become the king in that game. So I feel like that's a good ending point for that game, because it's also super historic, and I believe, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, and that was something I read that was like a rumor theory or something like that. It's, again, been years since I touched the game, but I'm hoping it's not a sequel, to be honest. I would love to see them with a new project in that wheelhouse, but something different. I don't know. I think Kingdom Come, they built a game that was so far ahead of what most computers could do at the time that it didn't get as large of an audience as it should have. I feel like Unreal Engine 5 nowadays, probably tech has kind of caught up to it a little bit more, so we're more capable of handling that kind of game. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Kingdom Come was historically poorly optimized, which, again, first game, I get it, definitely, but I remember it running poorly on people who were like, there's no reason it should run this bad. I have like a 3090 or whatever the card was at the time. It might have been a 1690. I don't know. But if you like old school RPGs that have a leveling system, I would say probably somewhere between Elder Scrolls Morrowind and Oblivion, that are set in actual historic times where you aren't just the fucking dragonborn and hero of everything and great at all things, where you actually suck and have to get better at literally everything because they were trying to be historically accurate. If I remember correctly, they even brought on a historian to like fact check them and say, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. No, it has to be this way. And so they built a very true to the times game, from my understanding. I think that's where that game shines, is their dedication to making something that was just as close to being there as it could be, so to speak. For a small studio, too, nonetheless. I mean, again, first game was the Kingdom Come Deliverance, so good on them. I'm excited to see what it is on the 18th. That means that all of you listening, it'll be 2 days after you hear this if you are not a patron. If you are, excuse me, 2 days after if you are a Patreon. If you are not, you're probably hearing this the day before, if you're not watching it currently. And that's pretty much the big news. I've got some quick fire stuff for you real quick we're going to hit on. Star Wars Outlaws has gotten an official release date of August 30th. There's that. I don't... Period. Moving on. SOCOM may have been leaked for the PS5. This is a very kind of thing. It's very early. There's no mention of this game literally anywhere on the internet except for this guy, David Veach's resume, I guess. I'm assuming it's on LinkedIn. I assume it's on his LinkedIn. It lists him as an actor in a game called SOCOM 111. Could be a placeholder. Could be a project he's working on that will never see the light of day. Could be a project that's actually in the works, and this is an official, not official leak, but this is a potential leak for that game. SOCOM hasn't had an entry in a very long time. I think the last one was on PS3. I don't recall one coming last generation. So that would be pretty cool to see that franchise come back. It was always a really cool kind of rival to Rainbow Six, in my opinion. SOCOM was definitely in that realm, so I would be very interested to see a modern SOCOM game and what that would look like, where they would take that. But basically, this leak is very bare bones. A Redditor apparently pointed out that it could also be a typo for SOCOM 3, which also doesn't make sense, because I don't remember the last one, but I definitely know it wasn't SOCOM 2. SOCOM games. Let's see. Yeah, so the last SOCOM was SOCOM 4. That was released on PS3 in 2011. Doesn't really make sense to go backwards to 3. To me, it makes more sense that the SOCOM's going to be SOCOM 111 or just SOCOM 1 and they're rebooting the franchise. But that's my thought process. Wow, there was actually 2 games after the one that I remembered. Confrontation was the last SOCOM game I played. I didn't realize they had 2 more after that. I never played SOCOM 4. So, I don't know if that one was any good. But yeah, either way, SOCOM is potentially getting a new game. There you go. Moving on. Asus is making Mjolnir. This is not an April Fool's Day joke, and I swear to God, it bugs the hell out of me that they announced this thing on April 2nd, because it fucking sounds like an April Fool's Day joke. But their literal promotional art shows it's not an April Fool's joke. So I'm not sure if Asus is playing 4D chess here, or if they're really doing this. Now, I'm not talking about the actual mythological hammer of Thor here. They're making a device they're calling Mjolnir, which appears to be a portable power station, is the best way I can describe it. If you look this up, it's on ROG's Twitter X account, I guess. They have a mock-up drawing of it. Not much is known outside of like, hey, this is a thing we're working on for portable gaming experience. My guess is their thought process is, hey, the ROG Ally we launch draws power like a motherfucker and people need battery packs. So let's build a fucking hammer. I don't know. I don't know who pitched that idea, but I imagine it went something like that. It genuinely looks very similar to Mjolnir from the Marvel movies. It has like a little handle and then the hammer, which appears to have the ROG logo on one side, potentially a speaker or a fan on that side. It's hard to say. And then for DC. whatever the fuck the regular power ports are, 110 sockets for you to plug into, as well as it looks like 2 USB-Cs and 2 USB-As, an LCD panel on the side, and yeah, not a whole lot is known past that. I assume it's basically just a big battery bank that you can plug into that's probably as heavy as Mjolnir, which is why they're calling it Mjolnir. But I don't understand who this is for personally, other than like the super nerd who just like, dude, why not just plug into a wall socket? Why? Where are you going that doesn't have a wall socket or something? Like, sure, if you're traveling, like, in a car, okay. I mean, I guess I can kind of understand that. Buy an inverter, right? Like, hell of a lot cheaper than whatever the fuck this thing's going to be. Are you getting on a plane? Well, guess what? Most planes have 110 sockets. Plug a fucking charger in. Like, who is this for? I don't get it. I want it, but not for the reason that they're selling it. I want it to actually smash shit, because I know that thing's probably weighty, so I actually want it to use it as a hammer. But I'm not going to pay for that. It's a very expensive hammer. It just looks dumb. It seems pointless. I don't understand the target market unless it's got something else going for it and it's actually like a mobile. I don't know. Look it up. It's dumb. It's dumb. The last bit of quickfire news I think I've got for you guys is Saber Interactive, the boss, quote unquote, their CEO, is predicting that AAA games. Yeah, that does sound 1%. Yes, you've known me for a very long time. You know I like to smash things. It's enjoyable. Saber Interactive has predicted that the $70 game, as we know it, ultimately the AAA game is going to change. The industry has already been moving towards this. We've seen that kind of trend where scope of games are being kind of dialed back so that they don't cost as much to make. And he thinks that like a lot of these AAA games, and then the idiots at Ubisoft who consider themselves 4A, and now you've got CD Projekt Red responding to that, saying they're going to be 5A. I'm still waiting for the dodecahedron A studios to just keep. Anyways, CD Projekt Red was joking. They were making fun of Ubisoft when the Ubisoft people said that Skull and Bones was a quadruple A title. It wasn't. It died. No one's talking about it. So either it's good and nobody's saying anything, or it's shit and nobody's saying anything. That's it. Either way, Saber Interactive seems to think that AAA games are going to die. And I kind of have to agree with him, and it makes me kind of sad. I really, growing up and seeing games go from fucking Super Mario World to where we are now, it's impressive, and I get that the industry has to scale, and it's not cutting its costs. Things are getting more and more expensive for these big AAA studios to make these games, and so, you know, the argument he basically makes is, again, Cyberpunk. Look at all the investment that went into that, and ultimately it did end up performing well, and I believe CD Projekt Red made a decent amount of money off of it, but like, it's a gamble every time you do that, right? Like, anytime you invest so heavily in a new idea, what happens if it fails? How is the company going to handle it? And that right there, that mentality is kind of the biggest issue I have with modern gaming, is it's a business now. It's not about making the games, it's about making money. And God, it's so fucking frustrating, because I remember years ago growing up watching E3 and events like that and being a fucking nerd and being made fun of because I was a nerd, but everybody there was interested in making games because they had a passion for making games. And now these events are run by people who are investors. You've got Embracer, one of the biggest cancers in gaming history, that their whole thing was just to buy shit. so they could own it. They were basically venture capitalists. They just wanted to make money and didn't even think about the reality that, like, video games cost a ridiculous amount of money and you're lucky if you make a profit on them. And those are the people running studios now. So it doesn't surprise me that we've gotten to a point where everybody looks at gaming and goes, well, it's the biggest medium there is now, right? It's bigger than books, it's bigger than movies, it's bigger than comics, it's bigger than everything. It is. The majority of people on the planet play games. And because of that, it's more of a business now. It's about taking less risks. Prime example. Somebody pitched to Xbox to make a Helldivers with ODST before Helldivers 2 came out. And they passed on it because they said it was a dangerous choice. It was not safe. It wasn't the smart move because it was a risk. Could you imagine how well that game would have sold knowing how well Helldivers 2 did? Dude, I don't even play Helldivers 2. I've played 89 minutes of Helldivers 2, but I bought it the minute it came out because I knew I was going to. I knew I wanted that game. I wanted to support that studio. I want them to continue to make amazing games like that because I was a big fan of the first one. I couldn't imagine playing an ODST. That'd be fucking... I mean, basically, you are doing that. But ultimately, like, Xbox passed on a golden opportunity because it was a risk. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that. We're going to see AAA games basically become like, okay, you got Call of Duty, you got FIFA and Madden, the MLB, the show, whatever. 1% asked what would replace it though. More indies. Yeah, lower budget games. Not necessarily less quality, but you would see more games like Helldivers isn't a AAA game. It's not. It's beautiful. It's fun. It's a great game. But it launched at $40, which inherently just right away tells you that this is AA at best. It's just the way they budget those games. But theoretically, hopefully that means we see more high budget indies, not so much low budget AAAs, if that makes sense. But it also has me concerned. This is the head of the people that are remaking KOTOR saying that he thinks AAA games are going away. KOTOR was a AAA game. That was BioWare's moneymaker in the day. And it has me a little concerned because if you're not willing to invest the money in a game you know is going to sell like crazy, I can't imagine KOTOR not selling like crazy. But the metrics these days are also super blown out of the water. I just saw something the other day where analysts are saying that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth isn't meeting expectations because it's sold less than Remake. Well, Remake was on 2 consoles and then got released on PC 18 months later. So if you're looking at lifelong sales of Remake versus Rebirth, yeah, Rebirth was launched on... Remake was also released during COVID too. Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of people were at home playing video games. So like, there's this anomaly in time because of COVID, because you had more people at home playing video games, more people investing in it, that everybody thought that's going to become the new norm, and it didn't. And now everybody's metrics are blown out of proportion like that was supposed to be the norm. It's never going to be. That was an anomaly. And we need to like throw that away and move forward with the understanding that that was a time in the world that was like, might as well be the Dark Ages, right? Like it's not the same as where we are now. We were never going there. It happened as a result of what was going on in the world. So for them to say Rebirth isn't performing as well as Remake, well, yeah, you released it on just the PS5, where on Remake it came out 1 during COVID, 2 came out on PS4 and PS5, and then released on PC. You're on 1 platform, it's on 3. Maybe when it comes to PC, and I can buy it, I'm not going to buy 1 million copies of it, but you're going to have a PC crowd that wants it too. I know there's people out there waiting for it. I'm not the only one. So these metrics, Sony seems to think they're not doing well enough with the PlayStation 5 as it is. Just the industry as a whole is so up its own ass with sales, it doesn't make sense. But I don't know. That's my rant for the night. I hope I didn't bore anybody too much. I don't know where gaming's going at this point. Microsoft is leaving the industry for all intents and purposes. Like, are they actually making a next-gen system? I highly doubt it. they're pushing games that used to be exclusives to PlayStation, which is just an unprecedented thing to do. Games that are high budget are slowly starting to die because companies are less likely to take risks on them. Where's the industry going? It's an interesting time. 1% once again, pretty late into the PS4 lifespan, as opposed to Rebirth, which is kind of mid. Yeah. I think a lot of people are also who have kind of the thought that I do, which I have, as of last week, decided to not. But a lot of people, I think, are waiting for that mid-gen refresh and want to get the PS5 Pro and then get Rebirth, is my guess. I personally, after kind of really thinking about it, I don't think I'm going to buy a PS5 Pro. Why would I buy a hardware system that allows me to play games at 60 frames per second, at best at 4K resolution, when I could play them at 100 and at like 240 at 2K resolution on my PC? I don't know. It's just me. So I hope there's something Xbox Omega or something off. Yeah, they definitely, Microsoft definitely for their last console needs to do something momentous. I think they need to send off Xbox right if they're not going to do hardware anymore. So the industry's in a weird place. AI has changed a lot in the scope of work, in the quality of games, in what we can produce, and I mean, we're seeing mass layoffs still. So I don't know. It's a weird time to be in gaming. It's a weird time to be a developer. It's a weird time to be a fan. But there is a lot to come this year that we do not know about. There is a lot of opening throughout the entire year that hopefully we'll see something cool. Hopefully we'll see a ton of great games coming this year because we knew about everything that's happened so far, and the rest of the year is still very open in terms of what's coming and when. So that's about it. That's going to wrap it up here on the free side. Over on the Patreon, we got some news about an ex-Bethesda dev's game coming out that he says is larger than Skyrim. 5 times larger, if I'm not mistaken. New news about Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake has surfaced. We'll be discussing that over there as well. And then, of course, talking about the games that are upcoming for the week. So thank you all for joining me. I apologize. It was just my voice droning on for an entire 40-something minutes or so. But hopefully next week we'll have somebody else in here with me. And we will, I think, be doing that giveaway next stream. So just a reminder, like, follow, subscribe somewhere, anywhere, come into the Discord, let us know you did it. We'll add you to the giveaway. If you give us any kind of feedback, review, anything like that in any of those places, we will add you twice for the giveaway. So thanks everybody. 1%, thanks for keeping me company tonight, man, and we'll catch you all next time. Have a great night, and tell your mom I said hi.